Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about astrology and the death of Riley Gale. Riley Gale, many of you may have heard, he was a renowned metal artist, I believe, musical artist, heavy metal, I believe. And the thing is, uh, I was taught, this is very eerie because I was talking just the other day about the shooting of Jacob Blake and talking about the transit of Uranus hitting one's sun or ascendant, or I would say even Mars. It could be a very critical period as far as some physical, as far as just something physical, whether it's a physical debilitation or odd injury to, or some injury to the body that happens very spontaneously, unexpectedly, and even in some cases may be potentially perilous. This is something, I mean, Uranus energy could be very shocking to say the least. When I talked in the recent video about the shooting of Jacob Blake, the birthday I found for him was April 30th, I believe it was, and transit Uranus was very close to his natal sun. And I had also talked about in a video some time ago, some of you may remember, I don't recall his name, but it was a young child that was shot basically point blank range by a neighbor. And he had a birthday, I think it was in late April, and transit Uranus was in very close proximity to his natal sun. The sun, of course, can be about our life, our vitality, energy, the physical body. Uranus can be something of very unusual nature. With Jacob Blake, he was tased before he was shot 7 times in the back. And tasers can be connected with electricity, shocking energy, and Uranus is associated with electricity, shocking energy. This is something. Now, when I looked up the birth date, according to metalarchives.com, and there was even a post on Facebook, on his Facebook page, on Riley Gale's Facebook page, that stated, it was on May 1st post, that somebody had wished him a happy birthday. There was also a sticker in memoriam on his Facebook page that said something like "Rest in Power" from 19, and it read 1985 to 2020. So I'm going with the May 1st birthday. It's somewhat speculative, but I believe that's likely his birthday, May 1st, 1985. I'm using Dallas, Texas as the location point for him. Now, the thing about this is when I'm looking at the chart, of course, going back to the transit Uranus is conjunct his natal sun in Taurus. Now, it hasn't been divulged precisely what his cause of death yet is. At least I don't know what it is. Transit Uranus hitting the sun, of course, could be again about something very unanticipated, spontaneous, shocking, happening, connected with the physical body. It could affect people in different ways. It could manifest some cases something connected with the nerves, or something with the shins or the ankles, or something just an unusual type of injury. I mean, or physical debilitation. It could be something like protruding, like something with the thyroid in one's neck. But the fact that he died, and I'm looking at the solar side, to improvise, of course, and do a solar/sunrise chart because his time of birth wasn't available. But based on the solar sunrise chart, transit Uranus, Mars, and Chiron are all in the 12th house. It wouldn't surprise me if this was something with suicide. Mars and Chiron in Aries, the sign associated with very volatile energy, gunfire. It wouldn't surprise me if this was a suicide, but I'm sure they'll release more information on this as time progresses. Hopefully, by tomorrow, the day after, someone will elaborate on the cause of his death. Now, in the fact that in the solar sunrise chart, that energy I talked about, Mars and transit Mars and Chiron are both intercepted in the 12th house of the hidden. So it's not surprising that we're not really getting the full details on this energy right now. And also too, Pisces falling on the 12th house cusp in the solar sunrise chart also makes, if this was indeed a suicide, 12th house is a house of endings. This ending, something right now at least, is very nebulous, obscure, and unclear. Uh, Another thing that I'm noticing as well, I mean, if this was indeed a suicide, well, I'm looking at one of the rulers of the 12th house. Pisces, being on the 12th house cusp, has two rulers, Jupiter and Neptune. Jupiter, one of the rulers, falls in the 10th house. So this would be something that may gain an indicator that the suicide, if that's the case, would gain some notoriety and some kind of recognition that would be highly publicized. Now, another thing that I'm looking at, right in terms of his chart, natal placements, and transits, is that also one of the rulers, the ruler of his 8th house cusp in the solar sunrise chart, he has Sagittarius on the cusp of the 8th house, and the ruler Jupiter falls in the 10th house, again, of notoriety and recognition and exposure. And this is something where, of course, his death is something that is getting obviously a lot of publicity because he, of course, being a famous person. The Sun in Taurus, I mean, just a little bit, I'm going off on Gemini Moon tangent here, just talking about his general, I mean, the Sun in Taurus, I mean, the Sun in astrology can be associated with one's life. I'm sure it is the Sun in Taurus, likely a person whose life was connected with peace and stability, security, and the fact that a lot of his focus was on music. And the moon being in Virgo, based on the solar sunrise chart, would show a lot of meticulous energy in that, and something associated with work. Now, I believe he could have the moon in Libra if he was born rather late in the day, but his moon is either in Virgo or Libra, depending on time of birth. Now, another thing is that he has Neptune in his 8th house, which could be an indicator of a death that might be maybe associated. It could be with drugs. I don't know if that's the case or not. But he also has Uranus in the 8th house, so this is something that tells me this basically confers what we know as far as his death being something very unanticipated, very something that came very spontaneously. And anyway, I'm just trying to see if there's anything else in his chart as far as something that may be related to his death, and because again we don't know the actual precise, we don't know the cause. I don't know the cause of it at this point in time. But something I'm noticing is that he does have Chiron conjunct Mars, and Chiron being in Gemini, I mean, this could be about injuries to the arms, the hands, the fingers, the lungs, and you have, well, Mars in itself, Mars in Gemini can manifest in injuries to the arms, the hands, the shoulders, the fingers. The Chiron conjunction to it could actually give more suffering in connection with that. That is, I mean, I don't think that had anything to do with his death, because you're generally not going to, I mean, even if this was a suicide, doing something, harming, your arms, your shoulders, not going to be something that's generally going to cause a mortal, a wound that's going to be perilous or lead to death. I mean, the risks, I mean, yes, the risk can be involved in a death, risk can be slit, which would be a possibility with this with the Mars and Chiron being in Gemini, and it falls in the first house of the physical body in the solar sunrise chart. Now, I'm just looking to see if there's any other thing that's an indicator to me. Any indicators as far as what his death might be tied in with based on his natal chart and transits. Well, having the fact that the zodiac sign Cancer on the 4th house cusp is an indicator that the end of life, I'd say, is a very introverted way, is likely was in his home. There's a good chance it was in his home, and maybe his family member may have discovered him. And the thing about this too is I want to backtrack a little bit as well, and state that this is very eerie because we had the one. There's a number of people that have died recently. Very, you could say, prolific deaths and or near-death situations with people. Between that boy I was talking about that got shot at point-blank range on his riding his bicycle by a neighbor, having the sun in Taurus around, I think it was like around 9 degrees, and then you have Jacob Blake, birthday April 30th. His sun in Taurus, based on the solar sunrise chart, was at 9 degrees. And then you have this person, Riley Gale, who has the sun in Taurus based on the solar sunrise chart at 11 degrees. And this culprit, I believe very strongly, is the planet Uranus. And we have to keep in mind that the thing about this is when we look at something like this, is the fact that Uranus can be connected with innovation, ingenuity, computers, electronics, the unusual, the esoteric, which includes astrology, but it's also very unusual type of unpredictable, very spontaneous energy, and very shocking energy when it's operating in a negative manner. So this is something that we really have to really understand about this planet. I'm going to have transit Uranus hitting my ascendant. It might not be till another 4 years or so, maybe 3 or 4 years, but it will be contacting it, and it's a time where I'm going to really have to be extra prudent and careful at that time in regards to the physical body. I would say the ascendant is more correlates more with the physical body than the sun. The sun can play a role in the physical body, but the ascendant is more prominent because it dominates the appearance and the physical body. He also had, I noticed in his chart too, he also has the sun making the opposition to Pluto, which could simply be an indicator that maybe it's like sometimes not getting enough power in whatever it was he was doing. And the thing about it is, it's also when I look at and I'm not saying this to be derogatory or anything, I'm just saying this factually, as far as the placement may go, the aspect. Now, having Pluto opposite your sun can also give issues that could be associated with something Pluto related. Is something connected with the colon, the prostate, the bladder. It wouldn't surprise me if he may have had some issues associated with that. And really, that's pretty much it. And as far as what I wanted to get at with this, as far as his any transits or natal placements that may have been tied in to his passing. But what I wanted to say is that just the last thing I wanted to get at is that just want to offer my condolences and prayers to the friends and family of Riley Gale, if any of them happen to see this video. So anyway, people, That'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment. Until next time, people, Edwin Learnard saying stay well.